What's going on, guys? Today we're going to actually start building our bucket list React app. So let's get right into it. Alright guys, let's get started. So the first things, obviously, I got my two terminals up. First is to run our yarn run, our custom script we actually built last time. If you don't remember, go check out the videos beforehand. It's right here, and the script that we wrote is just for the babble sake. So we're gonna just do yarn run build, so that way it could run that. I'm not gonna go into detail about what that is. Now that's running, I'm gonna just minimize that right here. Let me get rid of this. Right here, we're going to run our live dash server, so that way we can see what's going on, and we're going to be running our public folder because that's where it's at, and this will pop up. And this should be something that we saw last time, right? Correct? Yes, correct. Let me just actually hey, I'm sorry if my voice sounds stuffy. I'm pretty sure it does. Sorry about that, guys. It's just I don't even know why I'm saying sorry. It's normal, okay? It's normal. All right, let me get this. No, man. Oh, like that. Yes, and this. Man, I'm just minimize that. Sorry. All right. Now that we have all this stuff, awesome. Now we're actually going to build out our React app. Or somewhat of it. So I'm actually going to get rid of most of this stuff right here. Yeah, all this. I'll change that in a bit later on. So what we need, well, we're gonna create a, I guess an object that has somewhat of the general data that we're going to need. Okay, just in case somewhere down the line we decide to change some stuff, we can only change it in one spot. What do I mean by this? Well, let's create one first of all. Const app is going to equal an object, and this object is going to contain my title of the actual project, which is called the bucket list. Okay, next is going to be my title, and that's going to be make a computer decide your way of life. Even though we're heading down that path anyways. And our options, like this is going to be our the options that we have, the bucket list options, right? So we're gonna, for the options, it is going to be an array. I don't even know why I have strings. It is going to be array, and for right now I'm just going to say list 1 and list 2. Okay, and that is it. This is our general data that we need for our application, our title, subtitle, and object. That's it. Now we're gonna create our template. So const, and you should know how to do this already, guys. So, like I said, we've created tons and tons of templates. We got the class template, we got the stateless templates or components anyways. I'm just going to do a template just like this, and later on we're going to adjust if it's going to be a class or a stateless. But right now, let's just keep it as a variable, okay? So in here, we do need a singular group that's never going to change. It's never going to change. We need a single group, which is our div, and then inside our div, we want to do whatever we want. Okay, so our h1, we need an h1, and in here we're going to grab app.title. Boom. Down here, we're going to do something different down here. So some people might have a subtitle and some people might not have a subtitle. Just to get all bases cleared, we're actually going to do a logical AND operator. If you don't know what that is, that means that if something is true, then you're gonna render something. Look, let me actually explain it right here. I'm gonna open up Google. It doesn't matter. I just want the console right here. All right. If I say true and something right here. Oops, hold on. No, I misspelled true. True and something. No. You see right now is actually spitting out something. So if something is true, this is called the logical AND operator. Okay, so you put your condition right here. You put your AND, and then if it is true, if this condition is true, it's going to render out this. And this is what we're going to be using. Oh, not that. Right here. Get rid of this. So I must say, if we actually do have an app.sub title, then I want you to render out a p tag with app.sub title, just like that. And let's just actually see if this is working. We control save this now. Oh, well, we don't have our template. Let's render out our template right here. Template, control save. The bucket list, app.sub title. I might have spelled that. Oh yes, we do have to add it as a variable. So I mean, as a well, yeah, it's a variable. So we need to add it inside these curly braces. Control save that. There you go. Let me actually reset this. There you go. There you go. That's much better. All right, now that we have that, let's actually create a p tag for our options. So this is another thing. If we actually have options, then we want you to render out this. If we don't have options, then I want you to do something else, right? So this is going to be an if-else kind of statement, but there's only two things that I want to do. So I'm gonna use a ternary. I think that's how it's called. I never knew how to pronounce it. I just know how to do it. But we're gonna use a ternary operator. I think you know what I'm talking about. So we're gonna say if app.options.length is greater than 0, right? And my bad, I do this all the time. We need to add the curly braces because this is going to be inside. This is going to be a statement, right? So if app.options.length is greater than 0, then we want to say here are your options. And we're going to get a colon. If there isn't none, then we want you to render out no or options. And you're gonna see this format right here a ton with React apps. You're hardly going to see if-else statements. You're gonna see this a lot. So get used to it. Okay, that's one thing I do gotta say. Get used to it. And then obviously we're gonna create our OL with our LIs. LI. And here we're going to say, for right now, I'm just going to put item 1. I'm literally going to hard code it inside of it. Item 1, because we're not really, I'm not really focused on how to get, you already know how to get the things from, the elements from the array. Item 2. But you don't know how to do is how to actually do a for loop without actually having to render this, which we'll get into another video, but that's not about this video. This video is actually about forms. So let's get to the forms. Now we're going to actually create a form, and obviously it's the same way you would create a form in HTML5 or HTML whatever. So form. We're going to create a form, and inside this form we're going to have two things. An input area where they could input the option and add option, right? Because we want them to add options. So we're going to have an input. The type is going to equal text, and name is going to equal option. All right, self-closing tag, and then we're going to have our button right here. Add option. Control save, and now we have our thing right here. All right. So this is where it gets interesting, okay? all of these things shouldn't be new to you guys. You should already know this stuff, what it is and what we're doing here. If you don't, look at the past video. I did a basics. The basics covers everything that we just did right now. So up to this point, we're gonna explore the form. Okay, so right now, if we actually do submit something in here, add option, it'll do a full refresh, which is something we do not want. We do not want a full refresh of this application, and it adds it up here. We're not sending nothing to the back end. We're actually going to do this in the front end. Okay, let me get rid of all this. We don't want a full refresh. We just wanted to add it to the item right here and just refresh this little section. Okay, so that's what we're going to focus on. And for that, that's why I already had this up and running, this thing. For that, React does give us some, I put DOM events, it's supposed to be DOM. For that, React does give us events to work with, okay? So if you actually type in React DOM events, my nose, man, is killing me. Type in React DOM events, click on synthetic event for React. And these are all the events that you can do, but we're not looking for this. We're actually looking for supported events, and down here is where you get most of the events. We got focus events, form events, mouse events, pointer events. I mean, basically all the things you could think of. Right now, we're focused on form events, right? And these are all the form events we could do. We could do on change if the form changes, or on input, or on invalid, or on submit. We're actually going to be focusing on submit event. So that's what we're going to be doing. So I'm actually going to copy this. Don't know why I minimized it, but we're going to create a function that's going to handle our submit, and our event is on submit, and we're going to give it a function. Right now we don't have a function, but we are going to give it a function, and my function is going to be named on form submit. I know, very crafty. Let me actually open up this again and minimize it. Okay. So we don't have this, so don't save it. If you do save it, it's going to throw an error over here, obviously, because we don't have, it's saying you don't have a function called that. So let's actually create that right now. Up above, const on form submit is going to equal, and we're going to do an arrow function right now. Okay, and we are going to pass in the event that's actually happening. So we're going to pass in E. This shouldn't be new. This is actually JavaScript. I mean, I'm pretty sure if you work with JavaScript, you've seen this stuff before. So I'm not going to talk about what this is. You should know that already. It's not about that. It's about React. And on this, okay. As we all know, JavaScript has a way to actually prevent default or prevent things from actually happening. So we're going to actually use that E dot. You've seen this before. Prevent default. Dude, I hope I'm spelling this crap right. I am. Okay, I hope. Prevent default. Yes. Okay. Control save. And now you see this backup running. Or now that if we try to actually type something in, add option, you don't see a full refresh. That's what we wanted. Okay. So the reason why we want to actually put it like this, most people are like probably wondering why we don't do it this way. Okay, when you do it this way, you're actually calling it. So this on submit is actually expecting something to come back from this function. Obviously, we don't have nothing coming back from this function. Nothing, right? We're not returning anything. So it's going to return undefined. If we actually save it now, it's going to crash because it's returning undefined. It's not returning nothing. And that's why we just want to reference it. Okay. And down below, we're going to just put in log console.log. And we're going to just log in form submitted. Control save. Inspect. Let me put this down below. All right, now that we do something, we got form submitted. All right, cool. We got this running. So instead of doing a console.log, we're gonna actually save the value we passed in. So we're gonna create another const option is going to equal, and we're going to use this e object coming back. So e.target, oops, not there, right here, e.target. So e.target is actually the target of what actually triggered this function. So what triggered this function was obviously this form right here, right? So it knows that, okay, this is coming from the form at least. Now inside of this object or e.target, we got elements. What's inside the targeted group? What elements are inside this form? So we're gonna put dot elements, okay, and inside these elements, it's actually listed out by name. So we only have one name right here. If we had multiple, we could actually target them by their name. So we're gonna actually target the elements by their name, and we want the option name, which is the input option, and we're gonna get the value from that input value. Okay, and there it is. So what we're going to do now is down below, we're going to actually create an if statement. And we want to say if option, if there's actually an option, then what we want to do is go to app.options, our array up there. And we want to push this option onto the array. I don't know, however you want to pronounce it. For now on, every time I make a mistake, I'm just going to say I've heard it both ways. So, and then what we want to do is clear out this form, okay? Because once we actually add this thing in, and you see how we click this right now? This never actually clears, which I don't really like. So we're actually going to clear it out. You don't have to, but hey, I'm gonna do it. We want to make it a bit sexy, at least this application element dot option dot value, and we're going to just set that to equal nothing. All right, now that we have that, I'm actually going to delete all this stuff. We don't really need it no more. I don't even know why we added it in the first place. My bad. Old habits where you actually put in dummy data and do it, but all right, to see if this is working, down below this p paragraph, we're going to add another p paragraph, and we're going to just put in app.options.length. Control save, and now you see 0 right here. Now, you would expect this to, every time if we do add an item and add option, you would expect this to actually increment, right? Because we're adding in options, and you expect it. But check it out. If we actually add an item, nothing actually, it doesn't really increment. Okay, that's because, like I said before in our basics, this state is actually set by what this already is right now. Obviously, this is 0 right now. So this state is always going to be 0. No matter how many times we add something, we never change the state. The actual state, we're changing it in the client side, but we're not telling React, hey, we've changed it, so do something about it. Okay, and this is what we're going to face, or we're gonna actually solve right now. So down below right here, I'm going to create a function called render. Const render is going to equal an arrow function. All right. So in here, what we're going to render is going to be a little bit complicated. It's not really complicated. It's going to look complicated, but it's not. Trust me. What we want to render is literally the template. This template, we want to render this template, right? I'm going to copy this out and push it in here. All right. Obviously, we cannot render it without actually calling react.render. So what we're going to do is actually cut this out and paste it right underneath our template. All right, so now this render function is actually, its functionality is actually to render out the function. We got the template, render out the template. We got the template inside of here, and now we have react.dom. Now what we need to do is actually call this render function so that way it actually renders. And this is where you would actually want to call it. Instead of referencing it, you want to call it. The reason why you want to call it is because we're getting something back, okay? That's why. So if you actually control save right now, you will see that it actually does render. Now, this plays a big part about something, okay? This is the reason why I did it like this. You'll figure it out in a bit. The reason why I did it like this is because now that we have this function up above, we could actually call render in here. Render, right? So now that every time an option does add, this render, we call this render, which renders template, which in return gets the options again. It'll keep on getting that state, right? So if I actually add option, obviously there's not going to be an increment. And notice that it says no options right now. If I add 1, here are your options. I misspelled that, but here are your options, and you actually get it. If I actually do another one, it doesn't really matter. You see that it keeps on incrementing. Now, you might be thinking, hey, this is very inconsistent because you're rendering the whole template. I disagree on you on that. The reason why is because React is extremely smart. It's pretty smart, okay? So, let's actually look at this whole thing right here. Let me not head the body, the div app, this div right here, this form, and check out what actually does get rendered, okay? So we have our form right here, and this doesn't matter. Check out what does get rendered. Every time I add something in here, see how check it right here. It's going to highlight again one more time. See that? That's the only thing that does get rendered out of this whole thing. Even though we're calling the template again to render this whole thing, React is smart enough to figure out that the only thing that needs to be re-rendered is actually this app.options.length. And that's why you see it down here, that it actually does get re-rendered. And that's the only element that gets re-rendered, which is pretty cool about React. And this is why a lot of people use React, or any kind of React based or Angular or something like that. So, one last thing before we finish off this video is actually we're going to add a remove button where it actually removes everything from this array. Okay, this array right here. And guys, I actually want you to do this by yourselves. I'm going to do it right now, but I'm talking so that way you could actually get enough time to do this by yourself. This is so simple, and remember, use the events right here to actually do it. So on click, for example, is not going to be a form event. It's actually, it's going to be a mouse event where it says on click, right? So we're going to use this event instead of the form event. So like I said, refer to this doc, man. It's really good. It's going to be down in the description so that way you can figure it out. So I'm pretty sure I gave you enough time to actually do that stuff. So down below this, it doesn't matter where you added the button. We're going to add a button. And we're going to have the on click event, and we're going to set that equal to a function. And I'm just going to say on remove all. Okay, and that is it. And I'm going to call it remove all. Now we need to create a function that's called remove all. And like I said, you just want to reference the function because we're not going to be returning anything from this function. That's why you reference. And just in case you didn't know, that's why you see some functions have parentheses and some don't. Okay, you do need to know JavaScript, guys. So over here, we're going to create a const and const with a name called that. Remove all. We're going to set it as a arrow function, and we're going to do app.options, and we're going to just set that literally to a new array, and that will remove everything. And guess what? We're also going to re-render our template. So once I save that, come back here, see everything re-rendered because obviously we did a lot of things. But if I go back here, go in here, our div, our form, just in case you want to see all this. This is all our elements we have right now. OL doesn't really do anything. So right now we have this. Let's
save the file. We can make sure to learn how to work with arrays. That's going to allow us to render a dynamic number.